2011, as well as larger fires in the area, including the Whitewater Baldy in 2012. After retiring as the director of the Silver City Office of Sustainability in 2013, he works with the Silver City Fire Department, Grant County Fire Management Officer, and 3 federal agencies to draft a community wildfire protection plan for Silver City and ETC. That led him to support the community of Wind Canyon and working toward recognition as a Firewise community, and he's currently working on Firewise recognition for our own Rocky Creek neighborhood. So, Carol, I think you're starting, right?
I am.
Here is the mic.
Okay. Thank you all for coming and sharing your lunch with us. Did anybody bring any extra cookies for me? Okay. Before we start our little song and dance up here, we do have a couple of people in the audience I would like to introduce you to. These are people who are very important to us because without their efforts, their assistance, their friendship, and their continual pushing and prodding, we would have never become a Firewise community. First off is Ellen Brown, who is a member of the U.S. Forest Service, the Gila National Forest Fire Prevention. And Ellen has taken it upon herself to become a true and fast friend of Wind Canyon, and we certainly appreciate her. Missing in action today is Tanya Vowles, who is with New Mexico State Forestry. For some reason, she thought it would be better for her to do her job today than to come have lunch with us. But Tanya is a resource to our community that is unparalleled. She will come out to your home, she'll do assessments, she'll help find grants for thinning and cutting, and she's well worth more than her weight in gold. We were hoping to have a couple of people from Silver Fire, but obviously they had more important things to do as well. We do have one of the previous station chiefs from the Wind Canyon Station, Roger Dombrowski. Roger, okay. Roger was very influential in getting our station up and running and built. It took us quite a while to get the station actually built. And he is by far an absolute wizard at doing property and home assessments for Firewise and mapping our community. We have got in-depth mapping showing not only this kind of stuff as the county map up here, but also we've got the grid maps and we've got streets and little houses where each of the houses are. And so we can look at our community and see exactly where people are and what the terrain is like around them. He has taken upon himself the mapping of Wind Canyon and out and surrounding areas that people have asked for, and it is really a worthwhile endeavor. And so, you know, he's made a great contribution to our station and our community. A little bit of housekeeping before we actually start. On the back table are some handouts. The NFPA, the National Fire Protection Agency, who sponsor all of the things that we do, it seems like, have a plethora of information, and they are always more than willing to send it out to us. So I called up and I said, okay, we're doing this little lunch and learn for an hour, and there might be 50 people there, and they said, don't worry, we'll send you. And so boxes, literally boxes arrived. So please go back there, look at the handouts that are available, take them with you so that you can review things. There's one little brochure that is actually a grid to help you map out what you're doing on your property. A lot of really good information. There's also somewhat sharpened pencils. My little electric sharpener decided to quit on me. So somewhat sharpened pencils back there and some little notepads. And there's also a sign-in sheet. We were reminded that you all are not required to sign in, not like when you're part of the fire department, we sign in constantly. That is strictly for our contact information if you want us to come out to your area, to your home, to your community, and spout off about Firewise again. You don't have to sign up for anything, but if you want to see us, you want us to come out to you, please put your information on that sheet. There are also a couple of business cards there from Ellen, from Tanya, and from me, and then we have additional information for you at the end of the presentation or contact information. So, okay, on to the song and dance. First, I'll click it. Expect me to do so. Here we go. Okay. You've probably heard Firewise bandied about before. My cohort in Man About Town, Nick Cicillo, is going to give you a concise rendition of what Firewise really is all about. In other words, it's going to take all that information back there, put it all together in a blender, and come out with something that you can take home with you. After that, Nick and I are going to both share our experiences in working within our individual communities. As for challenges, I can honestly relate that after actively working with Firewise guidelines for the last 6 years, I have an overwhelming list of challenges which have affected us and probably every other Firewise community throughout the country. And Firewise is a national organization. Regardless of the challenges, Nick will then show you what we consider to be the benefits of this effort. It's a lot of effort, but it's all worthwhile because it affects every single one of us. We want this hour to be beneficial for you, so if you have any questions as we go along, we'll do our best to address them, either during the presentations or afterwards, or as I said, you can sign up on the sheet and we'll come to you and talk about it some more. Please make sure that we cover what you want to hear. We're not here just to spout, although I do like to talk. So that's one of the reasons I'm up here. So in that regard, we will move on. Oops.
Good. Thank you. What I didn't tell you is I normally like cookies. I did bring some, but I ate them all.
Story of my life.
I guess I love you for that. As Carol said, Firewise is a national program. It's particularly germane to us for fairly obvious reasons. Can you all hear me pretty well? Good. The area, the whole Southwest, on average, not necessarily year to year, but on average, is getting hotter and drier. And as you all know, who at least those who have been here since 2011, we have had major fires in the area. Starting with Quail Ridge, where we lost 13 homes. The other fires did not impact structures within city or county, but actually, I guess with the silver fire we have. We've had, at least from 2011 to 2014, we had a major fire every year. And at least the projection is that, and I'm sure you've seen this in the news as well, the West as a whole has a growing number of fires and larger ones. So Firewise, basically, the aim of it in terms of looking at public safety, its structures, and simply in terms of protecting the environment, in particular our own homes, which I like to say, we've all spent a good part of our life saving the money that we've invested in our properties. And nobody likes to see their house go up in flame. The focus here is neighbors helping neighbors. And while a lot of us in the West have a tendency, especially I think as we retire, we kind of say, well, we've done enough, we don't want to work too much more, we want to get out and travel and play, et cetera, et cetera. It really is about, in terms of protecting the neighborhood versus an individual home. It's about working together. So it's doing projects, there's cleanup days, it's what's called a chipper day, with kind of, a collective thinning of vegetation, and then bring the chipper. The program itself has these 6 steps. These are basically right off of the website, firewise.org, which will have what's on the slide for you. Pop it down. The first thing is after getting a sense from the community that they want to pursue this, however you do that, whether it's just talking to neighbors or having a social or party at your house or whatever, that the community at some core sense says we want to pursue this, we see the value of it in terms of safety to ourselves and our property and neighbors. So we request them for time of hours from New Mexico State Forestry, I think that Carol had mentioned earlier, a hazard assessment. Because what Firewise is about is addressing, over a period of time, the hazards that are identified by the state rep. So that's about a document or so, and you review it, and actually you work with them, which we've done, which I think enhances the assessment. Then the Firewise program wants you to establish a committee. And in our case, we're a small neighborhood of 14 homes. We established a committee of 3. 3 months later, one of them moved to Tucson. And that's part of the challenge. We're somewhat of a fluid community. And so sustaining this, because this is an annual program, year to year. And you have to submit a report of each year saying what you've done. And they're not looking for any heavy lifting. They're looking for consistency. They're looking for people working together. And if you don't do anything in that year, then you will not get recertified. You will no longer be a recognized Firewise community. So Firewise Day, at least one annual event, and it could be a number of things, and we'll get into that in terms of the activities that I think that Carol will define. And then again, after reading and assessing yourself, what the hazards are based on what Tanya has defined in the document, we then create a plan. This is how we're going to address some, not necessarily all, because you might have 30 hazards. And how you lay the plan out is up to you. It could be over a 1-year period, it could be a 3-year period, it could be a 5-year period, and the activities depend on what you're going to prioritize. Again, I don't think they're looking for heavy lifting, but they're looking for consistency year to year in terms of regular activity. So then there's an application. 2-page application, which is fairly straightforward. That's where you submit the plan. And you submit it to the state agency, and they forward it onto the National Firewise program. There's a requirement to invest a minimum of $2 per head annually in local activities. But there's in-kind, and the $2 per head is very, it's almost, I don't know how to say, it's a requirement to show investment, but it's very little investment. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Carol to, oops, I'm being disabled here in terms of overview, activities. Carol, please. Here's the
Okay, these are the Firewise activities points. Okay, education, projects, neighborhood cleanup day, and and evacuation planning. Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot of important stuff going on. There's a lot of important stuff going on with Firewise and with the community. Unlike Rocky Creek, Wind Canyon has 137 homes and a whole lot of other properties. So there are a lot of people in Wind Canyon. When we do our in-kind list for submitting, we have 1,400 hours that people in Wind Canyon have worked on their properties for this last year. Obviously I didn't, because I just walk around and tell you what to do, but anyhow. This first picture is the view from what would someday be my house. It's the virgin area of Wind Canyon. Hard to believe that just 50 years ago or so, that was grazing land. Now we've got pinon, we've got scrub oak, we've got juniper, we've got a heck of a lot of bare grass. All those fun things that everybody loves to deal with. Okay? The second picture is taken from the temporary front steps of my house. This was approximately a year after my husband started building our house. That is a house under construction. The contractors had an accident, took one of their workers into town, left the tar pot for the roof going. Next thing you knew, the house was totally engulfed, the garage was totally engulfed. And if you have never seen a propane tank vent, that is such a neat thing to watch from a distance. That tank vented 3 times, and each time it sounded like a jet engine taking off. And the first time I heard it, I thought, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. And then I started watching, and I started calling the fire department, and basically panicked for the next 8 hours until Silver City, Tyrone, Pinos Altos, Whiskey Creek, and Forest Service, BLM, all of those people together ran up and down the roads in Wind Canyon to make sure that fire did not continue up and over the ridge and into the rest of y'all. We are on the western edge as the prevailing winds go. How Wind Canyon goes, Silver City will go. So if we don't get it out where we are, y'all are going to say, geez, where are the hot dogs and the marshmallows? Because it's going to come to you. Okay, our whole education with Firewise started because we built a fire station. With all of the classes that we had to take to become firefighters, and all of the training we had to take to become firefighters, we suddenly started looking around and thinking, okay, there's more we need to learn about our community. Our leaders in our station, Roger, Holly Sitch, other people who were involved with the Tyrone Department, introduced us to Firewise. I'd never heard of the concept. I lived in Salt Lake City, and before that I lived in Detroit, and before that I lived in Chicago and in Munich. I don't know anything about volunteer fire departments, and living in the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface. Okay, we turned Firewise into the Wind Canyon community effort. We constantly had open houses and information packets taken door to door. Sometimes we took them with our very first fire truck, which came up to us as a donation from the Hichita station. That was a 1929 Model A, wasn't it, Roger? But we drove around, we got to know the people in our community, which is kind of hard when you live on 10 acres. You tend to, see a housetop, and that's about it. It's not like living 10 feet away from your next door neighbor. But we got to know the people in our community, and we started working together with the people in our community. One of the things that Firewise does is give you a list of things that you can accomplish and basically spell out how to go about it. We had a lot of information, a lot of meetings, clean your property, trim up your trees so that their lower branches are above ground. So if a fire does come through, it's going to take out that grass and keep on going. It's not going to go up the tree and shoot out sparks that will land half a mile away. We had, after 5 years or so of doing all of this, we had an organized chipper day, which apparently Silver City thought we were at the point of being ready for it. We had grown up enough. They, with Tim Heydrich, who is now the fire chief, and Jeff Bell, Tanya, Ellen, all of these people all got together. They brought out chippers. We had everyone do their thinning and trimming and haul all of their slash to designated points within Lincoln. We got the chippers. We spent a long day eating hot dogs, drinking Cokes, and chipping a lot of wood. We really cleaned out Lincoln. Yeah. So this last year, we did it again. We cut. We had groups of people on various parts of Wind Canyon as teams because, you know, we're all old and we're all retired and we can only do so much at once. And so we had the A team down on Snowshoe Cove, and those guys just hauled out a whole lot of brush. And then we had another team up on Community Viento, and they piled and piled and piled, and that's where some of this is right there. It is an ongoing thing, as we said. This past fall, we put out another all-out assault and took out some of the bigger branches to use for firewood. And we have plans to chip a bunch so that homeowners can use it for landscaping material. And eventually, when it dries out enough, the scruffy stuff that's left is going to be done with a burn. It takes a lot of people in the community to get this much work done. Considering that we're all old, it had to be a group effort, or we would not have accomplished what we succeeded in doing. And then, you'll notice we have people from Grant County Fire Management Officer, Jeff Bell, who's his Assistant Fire Chief in Silver City. This is Tanya, the new worker bee. This is Ellen in her more relaxed clothes. This is Tim Heydrich, the Silver City Fire Chief. And then these other scruffy people are Wind Canyon residents. They don't know what they're doing, but we were having a fun day, and so they came along. So this is the official recognition of Wind Canyon as Grant County's first recognized Firewise community. It was a long process. It took us a long time to get there. But it was well worth the effort for all of us because we're all safer because of it. The next thing that we took into account, and this is something that is kind of Firewise but kind of not Firewise. It actually started off with Roger doing assessments and evaluating our community and laying out areas of safe zones and how that we can evacuate if we need to. We tend to try and get homeowners to the point where their property is safe enough that they can stay in their home rather than having to evacuate. But we also have to get people out, and we live on dirt roads and we live on narrow driveways. And so we have plans in place to help people get their horses out, their llamas, their dogs, their cats, goats, trees. We've got all those things out here, and people are all concerned about them. So that's all part of a community evacuation plan, which is also an ongoing thing because there's always changes being made.
Thank you, Cal. We'll go from large to small. This is the map with the boundaries we're trying to do for Firewise assessment. And there are 14 lots there. And we're off of Swan, going north. Those Gallegos is up here. And Indian Hills is immediately on the other side. I don't know, can you flip the light switch? As Carol was saying, Wind Canyon is on the west. This is northwest. This is Wind Canyon right here. And as you know, we have prevailing winds that come out of the south and the southwest. So there would be an event here. There is a potential danger to the town and we need to see in this direction. Fire can come from anywhere, but prevailing winds and those are the ones that are most expected. So that was part of the initial partnership with Wind Canyon by the county and the Associated Fire Department. Size and location and the fire history. I mean, there was at least in the several fires there. The one that Carol mentioned, there was at least one, maybe two. I don't know if the principal left the lines down and walking on 30. Yes.
Lightning started.
Yes. So we're over here, and
That little tiny spot, not very big one.
well, there's not even a spot there. So that's with a non-spot. But we feel the same way. We normally do like 2 socials, just within the neighborhood. Pizza or chicken enchiladas or whatever we do. Up really low, and we simply catch up with each other. We don't necessarily see during the year, so it's a nice thing. So we did have some relationship already established, and so after we were working with Wind Canyon, it's in parallel. We started a conversation within our neighborhood to say, okay, we've been doing this work with Wind Canyon. I've been involved in that. It kind of makes sense for us to try and do it here if you're all willing. And the community decided to go ahead. So the hazard assessment was made. We did a number of activities, at least 2 that were done, if not 3, for chipping. This in fact, was all these flows are from the same day. It was our Firewise day, chipping day, after we individually done clearing our own properties. And this is kind of deceptive in terms of the amount of vegetation there. But that is cut brush. It's about 60 feet long, 4 to 5 feet high in areas, and maybe 4 to 8 feet in depth. So it's quite a bit of material. And the county and the town were both good enough to bring out chippers. So we had 2 on site. The county has a very large commercial one, which kind of blocks for breakfast, if you will. And the city brought out a smaller one that was also very effective. So in 2.5 to 3 hours, we fed both of those machines. This is Tom Rollywine, baseball coach, one of our neighbors, and Richard Ben. Richard was the 3rd committee member who was now in Tucson with Pat. Mm-hmm. So again, things evolved and changed, but we had good participation at that time. The city doesn't do much, if any, burning. You have to commit to burn in the city limits, but VFBs in particular, Peters Outpost, multiple veterans and battalion chiefs said, we burn all the time. We want to use for training purposes. And one of the properties in particular had all kind of debris, which had been gathered and whatever over the years. This was, most of it, because it goes down the slope, and it was put there for erosion purposes. But the amount of material really was fire hazard. So Chief Leggett came out and he said, okay, I want you to put 5, I want you to take all this, and I want you to put it in 5 piles. In this area was previously cleared and mowed, so there was space. Like you obviously see there were trees that are not that far away. They brought out an engine and a water truck, and, and 6 firefighters. So there's one there, there's another one right over here with another hose. So it was pretty impressive in terms of how they went about it. And they would light one pile at a time and let it die down, and then light another one and let it die down. And I think on the 4th one they decided it was okay that someone could go in for a pizza break with their bacon because they had a new pizza oven. And that is the fun side of it. You know, there's some work and planning it, etc. But in terms of coordinating with your neighbors and then sharing, hey, this is how you do it. We did this. It adds to the relationships. This is Randy Villa. This is the commercial county skipper. This is only about a quarter of the material that was on Alex's property. And Alex is in his 90s. He decided that he wanted to buy a new chainsaw, so he actually did the work, didn't tell me, and then gave me a call and said, "Hey, Nico, can you arrange to get this stuff off the property?" And so I called Randy, and he came out, and he and I gathered the material that Alex had cut, and that worked out really well to assist one of our more elderly residents, but wonderful man, and so that was a fun trip. I'm going to pass it over now to Carol, and she'll talk about some of the challenges.
As often as I have talked to the scrub oak and wild grasses on our property, I cannot convince them not to grow. It's a continuous process. My husband goes out to weed whack, it'll rain, doggone it, there's those grasses all grown up again. It's a continuous effort. Once the weeds are whacked and the brush is cut back, then what do we do with the ever-growing pile of slash? Nick showed you piles of slash. You want to see piles of slash, come up to Wind Canyon. We have mountains of slash. Ask Ellen. I said, Ellen, go up to the top of Community Piento and look at the slash pile up there. She said, okay, fine. And she drove her truck up and almost wrecked it. And she saw this mountain of slash up there. When you have as much property as we have out there, and most of it had not been touched since all of the trees grew up, boy, we had a lot of work to accomplish. As Nick said, people move. It's a very mobile nation. And Wind Canyon, even though we tend to all be retired, are also mobile. In the 10 years that we've lived there, people have come and gone. You just get a group working well together, and somebody has to go take care of the kids, the grandkids, the great-grandkids. Or they have to go back to New York because mom or dad are ill and need their help. The property turns over, but the Firewise information and the commitment to our community doesn't always go along with it. We also have to deal with absentee ownership. For us, that is a huge problem because we have huge tracts of land that is owned by someone who has probably never seen it or hasn't seen it for 10 years ago. If we contact those people by mail or phone or email, they say, you know, I live in Connecticut. Okay, fine. I live right next door to where your trees are grown. And if your trees burn down, I'm sorry, but you're going to have some ugly piece of ground to look at. But if your trees set my trees on fire, we have an issue. Okay, so we are constantly working with our absentee owners to try and get them to buy into the safety of the community as a whole. Our first chip day in 2014 was fun. We worked, we had hot dogs, we got hot and sweaty and stinky. We have 2 homeowners who have a big barn, and so we all kind of hung out in the shade of their barn to take our breaks and enjoy their goats and their chickens and things. Everyone worked really hard. We had a lot of people from outside of the canyon, Ellen and Tim, who actually brought his daughter with them. I mean, people from Silver City and the county and the Gila were just incredible to us and can never be thanked enough for their help. We got an awful lot done. We really, really did. More than I even considered. This year, we still had over 20 people participate in our annual work day. Just that day. Of course, when you have as many people as we have, you've got people traveling on the road, in the hospital, out to Walmart, someplace other than wanting to be out in the canyon, cutting and trimming and hauling. So 20 people I thought was a pretty good participation for the day. But I can tell that people are starting to get tired of hearing me argue about fireworks. I've done it so often, and they see my car coming. I traded cars, so now they have to look again. That's right. That's right. So my new approach is to tell everyone, do what you can when you can. Keep track of the hours. They all qualify for our community commitment. Doesn't all have to be done on one day a year. It's a over the years time process. Keep track. I put it all together in a spreadsheet. And when I fill out the application at the end of the year, we come up with massive amounts of work that people have done for our community. Not just for their own homes, but for my home and Rogers and everyone else's out there. It really makes you feel good about the people who live a quarter of a mile away from you. That picture I showed you way back when of the house that was on fire, as the crow flies, it's about a quarter of a mile from my house. To get there from my house is a 6.5 mile drive. That's out my driveway, out Wincanton Drive, out to 180, up to Community Piento, back up and around 3/4 of Community Piento. And I can see that house to this day. I can see people walk outside of that house. And if the winds are blowing just right, I can hear them as clear as day. But if I was responding to a call at that house, it would take me a good 10 minutes to get there. So, to change things up a little bit, our project for 2016 is to build a community compost bin. I think it's a win-win situation. It's not on the list of recommended, proposed, here's a list of things you can do by Firewise, but it could well be, because we have actually found a use for the slash, the grasses, the vegetation that came from all over the canyon. It's all going to go into a large pit. With the addition of deposits made from our resident horses, llamas, goats, etc., and a willing neighbor with a nice tractor to turn the pile, we will eventually have a nice compost pile that the residents of Green Canyon can reclaim for their gardens. And in my estimation, that's as good as we can get.
Thanks again, Carol.
Oh, well, that, just that.
You probably alluded to most of these benefits already, so I'll be brief. There really is a benefit in terms of not just for fire. Who knows, when we might need assistance with whatever. This is really kind of we're trying to build beneficial relationship in a two-way street. Coming from large metropolitan areas, Sonia and I, meet a couple of our neighbors, but not to the degree that we do now. And we feel it's a real benefit in the long term. Certainly eating more pizza is, at least for me, always, I probably should have put it up as number one. Do that as a day. Again, we're protecting individual homes and the neighborhood. We protect the neighborhood. More individual homes harden their structures like deck and roof and the materials used, fencing, and clear out the debris, which is obviously a fire hazard, safe for the neighborhood. The real benefit of this over time is getting more people to work together so that you can go to a neighbor over here and say, Joe, the hill that you have on the south part of the property that not only kind of faces up towards you, it faces up towards David and Jane. It's on your individual property. It's not neighborhood or public property per se. But would you be open to fitting that? So it's not only an additional protection to you, but directly to another neighbor and to the broader neighborhood. And so that's where we want to get to, because that's where we really want to protect the neighborhood itself. In the process, we learn a lot. There's conversations, there's reading, there's relationship with the local volunteer fire department or Silver. And it's just, again, it's part of the continual process to find out what's changing. And it's overall, a great feeling of satisfaction to we're dealing with probably the greatest threat to the community we have. And that's the better than anyway. So now we'll go on to questions. And I'm going to leave the contact information up. Carol's is back on the table. Mine is up here. I didn't get a chance to print out this morning, but there it is. And there's two sites there, one for the general Firewise website, and then the recognition program that if you want to look at becoming a formally nationally recognized Firewise community, that's the site that has all of it. Roger.
I wanted to add one of the benefits, being an ex-firefighter, another one of the benefits is you save firefighters' lives. While firefighters are dying, protecting homes, you will not protect them. And I think that's one of the very most important benefits. Taking care of our business so that our firefighters and service can live.
But raised an excellent point. As some of us know, 19 firefighters died 3-4 years ago in Yarnell, Arizona. And the national policy of firefighting is now shifting to firefighters don't go in necessarily and fight structure fires, especially in certain conditions like high wind and low heat. Come in behind the fire and deal with it at that point in time. So it's kind of counter to the thought of an individual who may not be as knowledgeable. The fire department's going to save me. I don't really need to worry about all of this. Well, depending on the conditions and where your house is sited, fire department, many fire departments, not just this one, because of what's been happening nationally, are saying, we're not going to put our men at risk or women, and so we're going to come in behind, especially in a large fire, because there was just a couple of years ago there was a discussion that the fire started in this area with prevailing winds, quail-like conditions, high winds, etc. And blows up through Indian Hills and goes into PA. The VFDs will come in and towards the south and provide a rear action while the Forest Service goes into the forest and prepares. Quail type conditions, fire down here will reach PA in 2 hours. And that's the scary thing, because an individual fire by itself is not that much of a challenge, but it's something that probably properly contradict me. But a fire and wind around fire material, which a house is, or dead vegetation, etc., under those conditions, that can create a conflagration that can take out homes and challenge lives. And obviously, we lost 13 homes in Quail Ridge. And that wasn't, well, it was a grass fire, and that wasn't really potential danger that we could have here. And if you talk to a senior fire official, either from Silver or from VFDs in our area, they will tell you it's simply a matter of when there's a Quail Ridge type situation. That could even be larger. And so when you hear a conversation like that, and I came in as a volunteer after I retired, not being privy to the conversation inside the fire community, if you will, it's really an eye-opener to hear the reality of what they talk to, because they deal with it every day, and what could happen.
Any questions?
I'm just curious if the insurance provider
yes and no. In USAA, California, and I think they're attempting the same here, will reduce your rates if you're in a Firewise recognized community. But other insurance agents are providing an incentive in a reverse fashion. Some of you may have gotten notice here. It's happened at least over the last 2 years, and will probably become more so as we go forward. And that is, in terms of fire insurance, there are computer programs overlaid on top of Google Earth, and they will assign a hazard rating to your house. And they may come out there and say, they may send a representative out and say, we need you to do a clearing in this kind of fashion up to 100 feet from your house. And strongly imply that if you don't, your insurance might get canceled or not renewed. Allstate has done that, and I think that's happening more and more often.
State Department. State Farm sent me a letter about Arizona, and I have to, when I wasn't there, some storm damage happened to come to inspect. They happened to come to inspect, and I was out of town, and everything was all up in the bank. And so they sent me a letter, and I didn't do it, it's last week. And that's like the only time we ever had to do it.
Now, the bad news is, none of us like to have anybody get aggressive about something that our mortgage holder might say, oh, we don't like this. If you get your insurance canceled, then you have a problem with the loan. So the good news is there's more activity there. Some may proactively say, let's do this. We see the work and we see the value as well. Others, it's a day-to-day challenge, get kids to school, get them to soccer, worry about the husband who lose his job or whatever else, and it's just day-to-day living. And that's not that uncommon here. And so for the insurance industry to take action, as we said, hey, look, this is this is important to us because we will have to pay out. And so we want you to lower the risk. Lowering your risk is a good thing. Your risk. You're forgetting the insurance part. Anybody else? Another question?
Any more questions? We have about a minute or two left.
This last slide, oops. This last slide is one of my favorite firefighter slides. It was actually taken at a training. It's what we call a Christmas tree burn. But I put it in there just to remind you that saving your home depends on what you do now. It does not depend on what the fire department does when a fire threatens. And we have taken the word if out of fire talk. There's no if in Grant County, or in the state of New Mexico, or in the Southwest. It is when. And you know it's going to happen. All we can do is prepare as best we possibly can.
Any final questions?
What was that fire that last night? I missed it. You said y'all were actually burning it.
It's a training exercise, and they set up, we call it a Christmas tree. It's like with propane coming out, and they have to form a team and go in to that fire environment. It's pretty scary. When my husband did it, I sat there with my
Volunteers.
yes, and silver fire.
I think we need to wrap this on because it seems like there might be another class following this right away. And so I want to say thanks to Carol and Nick and Helen for coming, and Roger, there's Roger, for all of the things that you've offered and the questions that you've answered and information. Don't forget to stop at the back table and pick up a handout if you glass. If Carol doesn't have a pair, I'll carry them all home with you.
Please.
Thanks for coming. Stay safe.
You have to, I want you to take too.